Welcome to your favorite bookish podcast, Fully Booked and Caffeinated. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Heather.
And today we will be discussing and reviewing the YA mystery thriller, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. As usual, let's talk about our fuel for this discussion. What are you drinking, Heather?
I was very tired after work, so I did swing by Starbucks and got my typical venti iced white chocolate mocha that I'm going to regret in 2 hours when I go to sleep.
Absolutely. Yes. But instant
I had a
gratification.
hankering, so I had to get it. And so here we are.
And you gotta go with the tea.
You can't. I can't go to Starbucks and get a grande. That's like an injustice to myself.
Well, it's just gone so quickly.
It is. It's true.
And I don't want to pay $6 for a coffee that I drink in 2 sips.
No, absolutely not. No, thank you.
I get that. I am drinking a beer because...
Ooh, what are you drinking?
I'm on vacation. It's from Hidden Springs Ale Works in Florida. Look at this can.
Oh my god, that's so cute. Is that Baby Yoda on there?
It's called...
I love that.
Jedi Mind Trick. Wow, remember when Baby Yoda was like a thing? Like you couldn't even open the internet without seeing Baby Yoda? Wow.
Yep.
It's passion fruit, dragon fruit, sour ale with lactose and vanilla.
That sounds good.
It's very delicious. It's very sour. I gotta put it back in my koozie. Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
So Holly Jackson. She was born in 1992, which already...
No, she wasn't.
Oh, she was.
No, she fucking wasn't. No.
So, already depressing.
No.
Because she's younger than both of us and wrote a multi-million-dollar book series that's been adapted into a TV. Anyway.
Just ruined my entire night.
Yeah, sorry about that. Hey, if it ruins mine, it's got to ruin yours too. She graduated from the University of Nottingham with a master's in English. She enjoys playing video games and watching true crime documentaries so she can pretend to be a detective. And she lives in London. So our book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, is Holly Jackson's debut novel because that's our MO on this podcast. We
Correct.
90% cover debut novels.
Debut novels.
Don't check me on that percentage, but it sounds accurate to me.
Close enough.
So this was published in 2019, and it's the first in a 3-part series. And as we've talked about on our Bookish Banter episodes, this has already been developed as a 6-episode TV series coming to Netflix next month. So it's coming soon. And I'm really excited for that. And the vibe that I got is that if it does well, there will be subsequent seasons for the other 2 books in the series. Mm-hmm. So the book was obviously a New York Times bestseller. It's nominated for a bunch of awards. It actually won the British Book Awards Children's Fiction Book of the Year, which I didn't look up. But I'm curious to know what they classify as children's fiction.
Right?
Because there's a lot
Do they,
of...
combine children's and, young adult?
There must be tiers or something, because... this has way too many themes to be considered children's fiction.
Yes, I agree.
Once again, I could have looked it up, but I would rather it be a mystery. So here we are. All right, so here is our summary from Where Else?
Goodreads.
Yeah!
Yeah. It's like a Jeopardy question.
What is Goodreads? Okay. Everyone in Fairview knows the story. Pretty and popular high school senior Andy Bell was murdered by her boyfriend Sal Singh, who then killed himself. It was all anyone could talk about, and 5 years later, Pip sees how the tragedy still haunts her town. But she can't shake the feeling that there was more to what happened that day. She knew Sal when she was a child, and he was always so kind to her. How could he possibly have been a killer? Now, a senior herself, Pip decides to re-examine the closed case for her final project, at first just to cast doubt on the original investigation. But soon she discovers a trail of dark secrets that might actually prove Sal innocent, and the line between past and present begins to blur. Someone in Fairview doesn't want Pip digging around for answers, and now her own life might be in danger. Ooh. Before we even start, I think it's so weird that the author chose to set this story in Connecticut when she's clearly English. Like,
I was just literally having those thoughts in my head. I was like, it's so weird that this takes place in America when she's not
and there's a
American.
lot of slang and word choices that are so clearly British that I looked up while I was reading if she was from England. Because she says a bit a lot. She says, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There was a bunch that stood out to me. Also, we've been absorbing a lot of Love Island UK, so I can spot it. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
So anyway, we're just accepting that fact and moving along. So in this book, we do have a varied layout because it is taking the guideline of her project. So it has journal entries, interview transcripts, hand-drawn maps, which I loved. Did you read
I like
this
those
or
little things. Yeah, it was. I had the actual book. I had the
Okay.
paperback. So that was fun seeing all the little tidbits interspersed between the chapters.
And I saw a lot of reviews say that the audiobook is really good, but I loved the physical because it had the maps and it had, I like this format a lot because it breaks up that monotony. It adds a little something different. So as we heard in the description, Pip decides to cover the disappearance of Andy for her senior project, which definitely seems like it would never be allowed.
Honestly.
Did you have a senior project that you had to do like this in high school?
No. There was too many kids to have a senior project.
Oh, true. Okay, true. Yeah, she's from a small town. I went to a very small
Yeah.
school. We had to do a senior project. It was called a car time, and it was a 45-minute presentation, and I did mine on the prosperity gospel. Basically, if God loves you, you'll get money. Don't get me started. Anyway, so basically,
We had senior service day, which there was a day that we all went to the beach and cleaned up the beach.
oh wow. That's a
Yeah.
lot easier than the community service I had to do. I mean, I actually liked the community service. We did soup kitchens and stuff, but
Yeah.
like you said, you had a lot of
That's
people.
probably
We had very
there was,
few
I mean,
people.
I think my graduating class had over 700 kids. We're actually the largest that the high school ever had and will have because a new high school was built that took some of the towns away. So
Wow. My graduating class, I think, was 56 people.
that's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And look how I turned out. Anyway, sidetracked. Okay, so basically, Andy went missing. Her boyfriend Sal lied about his alibi, and then he took his own life. So even though he never was arrested, never had a trial, the police said they found enough evidence to prove he was 100% guilty. The evidence seems questionable to me, but Sal was Indian and Andy was white, so he definitely would have been convicted anyway. And we will get back to that. So, first stop is Pip going to Sal's house and looking to question his brother, which, girl, no. She's
know.
like, I'm not going to cross any ethical lines. And then she's like, I should definitely go to the accused murderer's house. And she wants to question his brother, which, girl, no. But it's Ravi. And Ravi is here to help with the investigation and prove his brother's innocence. So
I instantly knew that it was going to be a love interest for Pip. It was so obvious.
but it's also so innocent and
I know.
so adorable because she's
is,
so
yeah.
nerdy.
It was cute.
So as they dig, lots of secrets start to come out about Andy. She wasn't a great friend. She was bullying someone mercilessly in her school. She was dating an older guy who she could ruin if anyone found out. And Pip starts diving into Andy's home life. Turns out her dad was a real piece of shit. And she had a teenage sister who idolized her but was also affected by their shitty dad. So the secrets just keep coming. Andy was dealing drugs. She was getting them from a guy named Howie. Sal found out about it and he was pissed because he did not like drugs. And that's what they were fighting about in the days before her disappearance. So that was one of the pieces of evidence that the cops had, was that, oh, well, a bunch of people saw you guys arguing in the couple days leading up to the disappearance. So safe to say that this project turned investigation is ruining Pip's life and making her do things she would
It was crazy.
never do. So
And I'm just like, she's out all the time. And I'm like, your parents just don't care that you're just dipping out at like 9 o'clock at night?
because she's always been so trustworthy that they
I
don't
know.
even have to worry about it. But here's just a short list of all of the absolutely batshit things she's doing. Catfishing someone through text. Going to a calamity party, which is basically a frat party but for high school. Pretending to smoke weed and inquiring about buying drugs, lying to her best friends, skipping school. This was the most baffling to me. It seems so out of character for her. And then breaking and entering into someone's house. So this project has fully consumed her life. But the investigation seems to be heading in the direction that she wanted, because everything that the police had on Sal, Pip is starting to prove wrong. His friends said that he asked them to lie for his alibi, but that wasn't true. She finds out that he was with them when Andy was killed, and they told the truth, but they got an anonymous text telling them to go to the police and say that Sal asked them to lie. Basically, they had an "I know what you did last summer" moment. And someone knew and blackmailed them. Which, like, I can just so clearly see this as a teen movie. This is why I can't wait for this Netflix adaptation. So once Pip finds this out, she's completely torn. The Ward family, so Kara is her best friend, Naomi is Kara's sister. Naomi was best friends with Sal and was in on the whole "I know what you did last summer" alibi, etc., etc. And then Mr. Ward has been basically, they've been a second family to her entire life. And if she goes to the cops and says, you know, the reason that they lied about the alibi, this would ruin their family. But she also owes it to Ravi and Sal to find out the truth. So she's towing the line. And now her goal is to prove Sal is innocent without implicating Naomi. And all along, someone is threatening her and telling her to leave it alone. Threatening notes in her locker, at her house, texts to her phone. Then they kidnap and kill her dog,
Didn't love that.
Barney.
I was like, why?
Once again,
Like, that just seemed so, like, out of character. And, like, the book, like, it actually took me away from the book for a minute, because I was like, oh, I don't like this. Like, this seems like
too much.
I don't know why this is in. Yeah, I'm like, this didn't need. I can understand the dog being kidnapped. Okay, sure. But, like, I think that killing the dog was not needed and didn't bring anything to the story instead of bringing it down.
Yeah, it was definitely to raise the stakes. And because that's the only thing that would actually make Pip stop. But I agree with you. It was too far, and I would like to apologize because this is at least the third book that I have picked where a dog dies.
You're right.
I don't understand it. I'm sorry, everyone. So they make her destroy her laptop and all of her evidence, which this also, I was like physically hurt when she's stomping on her laptop and smashing it, and then she has to come home and tell her dad that it was stolen, and he's like, "It's okay, Pip," and I'm like, "Oh, it's not okay." So this is obviously no longer a school project, because like we said, the stakes are sky high, and Pip is ready to call it quits, rightfully so. But Ravi convinces her to keep going because obviously they're getting close, and there's a killer out there on the loose. So they got to figure this out. So she narrows in on the Ward family as much as she doesn't want to. She has the wild idea that Andy is still alive and Mr. Ward is keeping her somewhere. What did you think when she goes and jumps to this conclusion?
would have believed it, because my whole thought process throughout the book was that Andy was still alive.
Okay.
And that she was, like, in on... I actually thought that Andy was still alive and she was in on this. That was actually the vibe that I was getting, from the way the story was being told. So I truly thought that actually... I wouldn't have been surprised if Andy's character was shown to be alive at the end of the book.
I can totally see where you would get that, especially because they're revealing all these negative things about her character. So it does seem like she would make everyone wonder where she is and still be alive.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But what I didn't like was that it was Ward that she was having the affair with. Like, that just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It was very much... And then again... But here we are again, choosing a book with, like, a teacher-student affair.
This is not our fault, okay? This is a common theme around here.
But I was like, that didn't track for me. I kind of was like, don't love that. Because it didn't match with the character that Mr. Ward was.
Yeah, there wasn't enough evidence.
I would have believed it more if it was the Daniel De Silva guy.
Yeah.
The cop. I would have believed that more so than...
yeah, there were so many sketchy people. And especially because the wife was like, oh, you're talking to another young girl? Not surprised there. And I was like, ooh, yikes. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there needed to be a little extra in there to kind of turn you against Mr. Ward before you got that reveal. So Ravi, when she jumps to this conclusion, is like, girl, you gotta relax. You've been working too hard. Take a night off. So Pip goes to confront Mr. Ward by herself because Pip is both very brave and very stupid. Yeah. So during the confrontation, he confesses to having an affair with Andy and being blackmailed by her and trying to end things and blah, blah, blah. We've heard that before. And the night she went missing, he hurt Andy, but he didn't kill her. She had a head injury, and he left her unattended. And then he came back, and she was gone. And he's like, she's wandered out somewhere and died, and I don't know what happened. And then he killed Sal and made it look like suicide, which they glaze over. But this is completely horrible. Not only did he frame a teenager for murder, but he let Sal's family believe that he took his own life, which not only is horribly tragic, but it's against their religion. Technically, they are not even allowed to mourn someone who dies by suicide. Like, you destroyed so many lives to cover your ass when you didn't even know if you had hurt Andy or not.
Yeah. And I'll say it again. I feel it didn't match his character. Like, this wasn't... He has two young girls at home. I can't... And he's a teacher.
Yeah, like, this man is a monster and he teaches children.
Yeah, so now he's, like, framing Sal and he's gonna kill... Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a little too far-fetched for me, and this was probably the one thing I disliked about the book, was that the killer of Andy and Sal was Mr. Ward, because that just didn't track for me at all.
Well, this is the thing. It tracks, I think, when she finds him and finds out that he's been taking care of Andy and he has been keeping her because he was so terrified of his kids losing another parent, and, he made sure that she had the, quote, best life possible in her makeshift prison. But yeah, I agree. The whole affair and then Sal dying. I feel like if they had made Sal's death more of an accident and then he turned it into a suicide, but he literally brought the sleeping pills and was like, I held him while he died, and then sent the text. And yeah, I think it was two different characters. It was two different characters. Yeah. And if there had been some extra story in there to turn us against him.
If there was some kind of weird underlying tone to his character that made you think twice about it, but you never think twice about it because he just seems like a big teddy bear. So it just doesn't... he's like, I gotta get to the panini line, or whatever he says, like, when he's in the school. You know what I mean?
So it's like he's not...
Yeah, there you go. Like, I just was like, so... I don't know.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I don't know. And I don't know. And I can't see him having the affair. So it was just,
I could see
didn't
him
make
like
sense.
texting Andy and that being inappropriate. I can't see him
Yes.
going and fully going through with an affair.
No.
So yeah, half of it I believe, half of it I didn't. But like we said, it could have worked. There was just a little bit missing.
Yeah, and also, isn't Andy the same age as Naomi? So you're gonna sleep with someone that's your daughter's age.
That's gross. No. But
I mean, I'm sure it does happen. I'm not putting it past disgusting people, but
yeah,
for the book, it just didn't fit for me. I think that's the only thing that didn't fit for me. Everything else was cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. So months later, after he killed Sal, he finds Andy randomly walking down the side of the road. And he's like, Andy, where have you been? I can't believe you're alive. I've created such a tangled web. I must kidnap you and keep you in the attic of my old house.
My dude had a psychotic break.
The only problem is that the woman he held captive wasn't Andy.
But he made himself believe it because he wanted it to be true. He didn't want to feel like he was responsible for Andy's death.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then wanted to feel like he was helping Andy once she was found again. And he's like, she'd obviously turned to drugs, and then I kidnapped her and made her well. Girl, you didn't. What did you think about this?
It was crazy. Like, it was, when the first reveal was that he had Andy in the attic, I kind of was like, what? Like, she's there willingly?
Yeah.
I would understand it more if it was like, oh, like she was being held captive, like she's chained to the wall or something. But it was like, he was like, oh, like, you know, she picked out her favorite wallpaper and like I feed her and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, doesn't really make sense. And then come to find out like it wasn't Andy.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun twist.
And it was a girl who was addicted to drugs. She had learning deficiencies. She had a lot of mental health issues. So it was easy for him to convince her that she was Andy.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone is all happy because the case is solved. It was Mr. Ward. But it's not. Because if that's not Andy, where's Andy? And the only person who seems to be worried about this is Pip.
I know.
Everyone else is like, yay, we found our guy. And I'm like, okay. So Pip keeps looking, and she figures out that Max, another friend of Sal and Naomi, who is actual garbage, raped Andy's sister, Becca. So Pip goes to talk to Becca, once again, by herself, because Pip has learned nothing. And the night of the disappearance, Becca told Andy that she had been drugged and raped, but Andy sucked so much.
I know.
That she told Becca she was lucky to be raped. Imagine your older sister who you idolize saying that to you.
And didn't she say, like, you're like a fatter, uglier version of me or something like that? So, yeah, didn't love that. But
horrible.
Then, clearly, like, you knew that Andy was a terrible human being because of what she did to Nat Da Silva. You know, like,
and even her friends
releasing her nudes and stuff like that. Yeah,
her friends were like, she
was very much like Mean Girl, but multiplied. It was bad.
And we find out that their dad pitted them against each other and, you know, told them that all that mattered was their looks and blah, blah, blah. So there was already these issues between Andy and Becca. So after that, a fight ensued and Becca pushed her. And because Andy was already concussed, she started throwing up when she fell. And Becca watched her choke on her own vomit and die. And of course, we get this confession from Becca as Pip is slowly passing out because she
I knew as soon as Becca left the room for like a hot minute, I was like, oh, this bitch is gonna drug her. Like, it was just so
It
obvious
was so
in that
obvious.
moment to me.
I was like, Pip, open your
And
eyes.
she's like, and the author's like, yeah, Pip, like, chugged her tea. And I'm like, cool.
And then Pip is like, wow, the weight of this confession is really hitting me. And I'm like, wait a couple minutes. So yeah, a full circle moment here. And Becca is going to kill Pip. But Ravi and Pip's dad save the day just in time, and all is well. Our second killer is caught. And Pip is okay.
Somehow this teenager has solved a murder-suicide case.
Listen, she sure did. Did you see her notes? They were very detailed.
They were very detailed.
So what did you think about these two reveals? We already talked about Mr. Ward. What did you think about Becca?
It like makes sense. Like, I feel like when it's like a family murder that was covered up, that's like always kind of fun. But it was dark where she like said she was. She's like, yeah, she's like in a septic tank. I was like, oh damn, girl, like you
Yeah.
you really knew where to take her.
And Pip even figured that out. It's like,
yeah, it was interesting.
I do think it's a little crazy to have two separate killers because, what are the chances and blah, blah, blah. But I think that the author set it up the best way she could with explaining who Andy was, why Becca would have reacted how she did, why their relationship was fraught. And also, Mr. Ward was complete trash, as we already talked about. But it's such a tragic ending with Kara and Naomi losing another parent.
Yeah.
And they will obviously never recover from the guilt and the shock. But Kara is a better person than me because she was by Pip's side the whole time. She was visiting her in the hospital. I'm not saying she should blame Pip at all because,
No.
But she was able to see it for what it was and accept it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because, I mean, essentially, it's like a catch-22 because even though the dad was a terrible person, Pip kind of ruined her life.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
By exposing him.
Because sometimes, I mean, we talk about this all the time, sometimes you don't want to know. So the moral of Pip's story, aka her project, because we're still working on a class project here, is that the town ruined Sal's memory. They ruined his family's lives, and they thought nothing of it because even though Sal was never tried and convicted, he was convicted in the court of public opinion. And all those people who look down on Sal's family have to now look them in the eyes after realizing how wrong they were. And that I think is the full circle moment because that's what she introduces at the beginning, how she's going to explore how the media and how, all that stuff, when really it was about people and the rumor mill. And
yeah, I feel like the whole point of her project wasn't even necessarily to solve Andy's murder. It was more to prove Sal's innocence. Which she did. Like you said, it is a full circle moment. Like it comes back around that they were able to prove that it wasn't Sal.
Yeah, so even if they didn't find out who it was just to show that the evidence that the cops had wasn't enough, that everyone assumed something when they shouldn't have. So what did you think of Pip as the narrator?
She was fun. I liked how quirky she was. And I really liked her relationship with her dad. That was really fun. I thought that was really cute because the way that it sounded is Pip adopted?
It's her stepfather. So her mom is her biological mom.
Yeah.
But her dad is her stepfather, and then her brother is her parents' child together. So it's like her half brother.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, that was like the vibe. That it wasn't. I knew that it wasn't like her real dad. So that even makes it more fun. The fact that she was able to create a bond with this man that wasn't like her birth father. But no, I really liked Pip, and I liked her journey with Ravi, and like how it was obviously like a meet cute when she shows up at the house to like grill him, not really grill him, but like interview him about Sal. But she like doesn't realize it in the moment, and she just kind of has to come to terms with the fact that there's feelings there. Because it seems like Pip's the kind of person that could give a fuck less about boys.
Oh, definitely. She's like, okay, I'll deal with that when I have time.
And he's older, like that's fun. Like it's an older man, which I guess would be on par for her character because she's so mature for her age as well.
I think what makes her a good narrator and also unlikely is her innocence. She's nerdy and smart, and that makes her that much more determined, but it also stops her from accepting possible danger, the moral lines she's crossing. All
She
of these
really
things.
goes up to like a drug dealer's house and is like, how do you know this man doesn't have a gun?
Yeah. She blackmails a drug dealer. She goes up to Andy's sister and is like, hey, can I ask you a couple questions about your dead sister? Like,
Yeah.
no.
The novel's definitely very far-fetched and definitely reads as YA.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But I do think that they set up her character in that way to be like, she is so focused on getting done what she needs to get done. She doesn't care about the moral lines. She doesn't care about the danger. She doesn't care about any of that. She's like, I'm going to do this because I'm on the right track and I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
So I agree. It's totally far-fetched, but done well. You know what I mean? Okay, so here's a quote from the book. I don't even know what's right anymore. Everything is so muddled. I'm not sure I'm the good girl I once thought I was. I've lost her along the way. Do you think that Pip lost her good girl persona throughout this investigation?
No, not necessarily, because I feel like she's still the same girl that she was at the start. Just a little daredevilish.
Maybe a little more worldly.
Yeah, because I don't even think that the things that she did in order to solve the investigation, none of it was bad. It was crazy, but she wasn't well, I guess she was blackmailing the drug dealer, but
yeah. She did break into Becca's house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she used a key,
but it's
so
not...
is it breaking and entering?
I don't know. I don't know that... I feel like...
Well, that brings me to my next question. Were her actions justified given her goals? And where do you draw the line between seeking justice and violating ethical standards? I didn't make up that question. I found it on the internet.
Definitely was violating ethical standards, as you said, i.e., breaking and entering, approaching the families of the murdered victims. You know what I mean? So it's just, she definitely was doing things unethically.
But is it any different than a journalist doing the same thing? A journalist who does this for their job? I mean, they do the same thing, you know? So it's
like this being like the internet sleuthers, like you're trying to solve, and so you don't have to, you should, but you don't follow the same rules as law enforcement or things like that. You kind of have a little more leeway with what you can get away with.
Exactly.
You're not like employed. You won't lose your job for being unethical. You'll just kind of get a slap on the wrist. The whole breaking and entering obviously was, you could get arrested for that.
Yeah, but I think that's a really good point. Like the internet sleuths and stuff, they only care about that end result. So
they
anything,
want justice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anything
it's kind of
is
what
justified.
Their eye is only on.
And I totally get that. Obviously, you want these murders solved. Obviously, you want the correct people to be paying for what they've done. But these are still people. These are still families of victims. Even Kara and Naomi, they're still victims in all of this. So no, I still think that her actions were justified, but that doesn't make it easier or better.
No, it really doesn't. Yeah, I mean, she got what she wanted in the end. She solved it, but the way that she did everything was literally psychotic, especially going to Elliot Ward's house, a grown man, by herself. Just because he's nice to you doesn't mean that he has this dark side and he could hurt you. I thought it was funny when she was like, don't go by the knives. Knives.
And he was like, he's like, Pip, I'm not going to do that. She's like, I don't know you.
But then... And then he was relieved that he was caught out. It was just like a whole thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Mr. Ward. Who was your favorite character and why?
I loved Ravi. He was just a sweet baby angel. And he was so caring of Pip. Like, he never even met this girl before in his life, and he would drop anything to help her out and everything. So I liked that about him.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of very selfless. Also, he wanted to get justice for his brother, so understandable. But like I said, he doesn't know anything about Pip.
Mm-hmm.
And he very much was, I love you, very quickly.
Oh, 100%. Robbie was also my favorite. I love that he was finally able to trust someone. And he loves Pip, and he supports her, and he grounds her. And even though they have this mission, he's like, no, you have to write your college essay. I'm not letting you, give up Columbia and all this stuff. I also think that it's interesting to see how Robbie behaves, because especially like that scene in the grocery store where the cashier is being a real fucking bitch, and Pip calls the cashier out, and Robbie is like, don't do that. Like, first of all, I'm used to it. Second of all, you're making it worse. And it's this whole like white savior complex of Pip has to stand up for what's right. Mm-hmm. But you're doing it, and the person you're standing up for doesn't want you to. They didn't ask for your help.
No, and I feel Pip is very much like, do now, ask questions later. Like, she's just like, she's very impulsive, and that reads so well throughout this novel, like, because of all the shit that she pulls. Yeah. Like, being at a train station, sleuthing on a drug dealer, like, it's wild. She's just doing things with really no regard for other people and their concerns.
Yeah, her focus is
wilding out here.
Detrimental to her. And she got real lucky that she didn't get hurt in the process, besides like being drugged and stuff, but she was fine. Also, love Pip's dad as a secondary character. You already mentioned him, but her parents remind me of the parents in Easy A.
Yeah,
because they're always making fun of her for being too responsible, and they're like joking about just, the funniest stuff, and he calls her Pickle, and it's just adorable, and I love it.
It's definitely Stanley Tucci vibes.
Oh, yeah. All right, so who's your least favorite character and why?
I mean, definitely Andy. Like, that was just... I know that she really wasn't a true character in the sense that she had any real part in the book. She was just kind of the reason that Pip was doing this. Mm-hmm. But she just seemed like a really terrible person. Also, Max, like, that was creepy that he had like a topless picture of Andy pinned to his corkboard. Like, what are you doing? I was like, that's just weird. And also, why? Again, this was like a thing in the novel that was just kind of like YA-esque. When Pip shows up in his room and he just keeps glancing at the corkboard when the picture is clearly hidden under something. So, there were obviously
Pip had a lot
things
of help
that
solving this crime.
She did. But Max was gross. Like, who?
Horrible.
I mean, he's date raping young girls. Stanley was a creep.
The journalist.
There was a lot of.
He was a racist piece of trash.
Were creepy.
But also, we never find out why Becca was dating Stanley. Like, your standards are that low.
And also, I feel like the De Silva characters weren't really resolved.
Yeah.
Like, it was just kind of like they had a point in the book, but they're still loose ends, in a sense.
They were just more victims of Andy. I mean, who wasn't?
And they were, like, obviously red herrings to throw you off what the real answer was. But, like, it was good. Was it the best written novel I've ever read? No.
No, of course not.
But it was...
It was entertaining, though.
Yeah, it was.
All right, so this is kind of going back to what you said. So we have this tendency to only point out the best in people after they've been murdered. Pause. Obviously, I'm referring to a white female teenager when I say that. But what do you think about this book really diving into who Andy was as a person and how she kind of was an unsavory character at the end of the day?
I mean, I like that because I feel like a lot of times they make these characters out to be good people. Good people that did, like, bad things. But with Andy's character, like, she was very unsavory from, like, the get.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew that she was pretty much terrible. And then she just gets worse and worse throughout the book. And then you realize that she's just a terrible human being. And then her end result before she dies is just being a really terrible sister to her younger sister that idolizes her. Just because she's mad that now the teacher doesn't want to fuck her anymore, which doesn't make any sense again.
Dude, that's her last words.
And then coming at her and, like, saying, you know, you're lucky to... It's just, like, it's disgusting, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So it's... You feel bad that she died, kind of.
Yeah. I think...
Like, obviously, she doesn't deserve to die,
of
but...
course.
You kind of reap what you sow. If you're gonna... The karma's gonna come around to you eventually.
Yes, I agree with that. I think, in general, it toes the line between victim blaming and being realistic. Yeah. But in this case, Pip does say it in a way that makes sense. Andy was shaped by her verbally abusive father. She was a teenage girl, which is dangerous in itself.
It is.
The social pressures and the hormones.
I swear to God.
Thinking
teenage girls are scarier than anything else.
They're terrifying. And thinking that high school is the most important time in your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, she still had agency. She still had the ability to overcome her circumstances, be a good person. She didn't do that. It doesn't mean that she deserved to die in any aspect, but it does highlight that she should have treated people around her better when she was alive, especially her sister and her friends. And it kind of gave the vibe that Andy was untouchable and she could treat everyone like this and it wouldn't matter. Because everyone would be on Andy's side because they were kind of afraid of her. Like, Becca never could have come out and told the truth because I feel like no one would have believed her.
No, and I also think it's weird that Sal was dating her because he seems, like, very laid back and not a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I would find it more believable if she was dating, like, Max.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that she was very good at hiding who she really was around Sal because she wanted to be with him, and I don't think he saw her for who she truly was, and that's why when he found out she was selling drugs, he was so surprised, and I wasn't surprised. I was like, that tracks. All right, so I think it's obvious that this book was heavily influenced by the podcast Serial. Have you listened to that podcast?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so there's obviously a lot of similarities between Adnan Syed. He was convicted. He's also Indian. A lot of people felt there was obvious bias and racism involved in his conviction. Another huge similarity is that they didn't really look into anyone else. It was the boyfriend and confirmation bias. And of course, Sal taking his own life made him look guilty, but it's not an admission of guilt. And I think it could equally be read as either an admission of guilt or, am I going to make people believe that I didn't do this?
Yeah, it's more like it could have been read as, no one's going to believe me anyways, and now my life is ruined, so what's the point?
And everyone's ganging up on me because my friends are lying, and I don't want to go to jail, and I don't want my parents... You know what I mean? Like, it's just... There's so much more to it, and just because he did that doesn't automatically make him guilty. But it did to the public.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, because it's considered like the coward's way out. So it looks like, you know, you were guilty. Why else would you do that? And it wasn't as if... I mean, I know the text message was confessing to the murder and everything, but it's very much...
just said,
doesn't...
I'm so sorry I did it. It didn't say I killed Andy.
I know.
Could have been anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could have been,
so
I'm so sorry I just took my own life.
Yeah.
So overall, were you satisfied with the ending?
Yeah, I guess. I feel like I didn't see either ending coming, and it wasn't where I thought it was going to go. And like I said, I just don't like... the Becca one is believable. I believe that. Because that's definitely... You've seen that in other books and everything. So that one tracks for me. But the whole Elliot Ward having the affair with Andy and then keeping a girl hostage in his house
for 5 years.
Make sense
Or
to
4.5
me.
years.
Yeah, and the reason that Pip realized she was there is because Kara kept saying, "Oh, where's the Butterfingers?" Like, okay, yeah.
Listen,
So
Pip made a lot of jumps, okay?
she did.
She has good intuition.
But they all were right. Like, all her jumps were right, which again makes it obviously very YA,
but also,
not believable. But
she had a murder
it was
board.
fun. She did have a murder board. I like that.
So
that was fun.
if you have a murder board, you're 99% likely to solve the case. Once again, don't check my percentages.
No, but it was fun. I like the whole concept of being like a teenage, like a Nancy Drew.
Yeah, like a present day Nancy Drew.
Yeah, because now you have access to the internet.
Exactly.
And other things.
And texting and printer settings. Anyway,
I was gonna say, like, she did a lot of things that I didn't even know were a thing, and I'm like, geez, I'm old.
Yeah, she's a lot smarter than us. Okay,
100%.
we know that. She's getting it to Columbia over here while she's solving a murder. I mean,
yeah, fun times.
All right, so anything else before we get to our ratings?
I don't think so. I truly believe that you hit all the spots that were of interest.
All right, so our rating scale is, drum roll please, Butterfingers.
Oh, I like that. I just brought them up.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, perfect segue. Also, this made me want Butterfingers, and I'm not
Same.
a Butterfingers gal.
I agree with that. I was like, now I just want a Butterfinger.
Yeah. Have you ever had those? I actually don't know if they still make them, but they're called Butterfingers BBs. They're little circles.
I remember those.
They look like Whoppers, but they're Butterfingers.
Uh-huh. I don't know that they make those anymore, but I do remember those.
Yeah, those were good. Because you had a good ratio of Butterfinger to chocolate.
I like Butterfingers, but they just get stuck in my teeth, and that's why I can't eat them.
Yeah, I
the
prefer
toffiness of it.
A Butterfinger Blizzard or a butter. You know what I mean?
I was just gonna say, yeah, those are good, but I'll eat them, but it's not smart for my dental health to eat them.
Yes. Our dentists do not like Butterfingers. Or
dentists don't like anything.
Sugar babies. Is that the caramel stick thing?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I thought sugar babies were like little. I thought sugar babies were.
Yes. Okay. What's the
Tolberl?
stick?
No.
Sugar daddy? Milk daddy? What is it? It's something gross. Oh god. Oh my god, I just googled sugar daddy. Don't do that.
It's gonna take you.
Sugardaddy.com. It's a dating app and website. Okay, I have to delete my history. Anyway, let's go back to this is like a bookish banter episode. We're unhinged. Okay. How many regular old Butterfingers are you rating Good Girl's Guide to Murder?
So I gave it 4 stars. Not for the writing. For the adventure that it took me on. Because I will admit, it was not a very... It was a well-written novel. I'm not going to say it wasn't well-written, because it was. But it just was very much unfinished, in a sense. And then, the ending was just kind of like whatever. But I did like it, though. And I really think it's going to be a wonderful series. I think that this is the perfect book to put into, like, a limited series.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so wild. This is a good one to put on the screen to, like, really envision it.
Also, it's made by BBC, which means they're all British. So everyone knows that this should have been set in London, except for Holly Jackson.
Did you know that the show is already out in the UK?
I saw something about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lucky dogs. Okay, if you're listening from the UK and you've already seen it,
don't tell us anything.
Don't tell us anything, but also let us know how it is.
How cute are Pip and Robbie? Do they have chemistry? Yes or no?
I need to know everything. All right, so...
But yeah, no, it was a good book. Like, it was good, So 4 Butterfingers from me.
That's too many Butterfingers for your teeth. Okay. On my first read, it was immediately 5 Butterfingers. I absolutely loved it. On the reread, I was reading it with a more critical eye, so I definitely had some issues. It is 100% written as a YA thriller. There's no question about that. If you're not into YA books, you will not like this. It is no,
definitely not.
It is definitely written in through a young lens, however mature the themes are. But mostly, I just love the characters. I love the banter between Pip and Ravi and Pip's parents and the friendships and the jokes and all of that. I just, at the end, I was like, I am obsessed with Pip. I'm obsessed with Ravi. And I just found it very endearing and fun.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it was a fun ride. Even though...
Yeah, it was quirky.
Yeah.
Like, I liked... I can...
Because that made it different.
I like that it was... Yeah. And I agree. I actually agree with what you said about the banter and stuff. I feel like the communicative aspects of her writing were really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
She was really good at coming up with on-the-fly, like, inside jokes and responses. And,
dialogue,
I love that.
It just flowed.
Yeah, that was the... Yeah.
So, obviously, the concept, the ending, they're far-fetched, but I still thought it was executed well for a YA thriller. Yeah. I still... At the end, I wasn't really thinking about all of those holes because I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Pip, I love you. And then at the end when Pip and Ravi are holding hands.
And also, like, Pip giving Ravi the chance to, like, talk about Sal. The spotlight was on her, but she was willing to take a step back because she knew that it was more important for Ravi to be front and center for that.
And then Ravi and Pip's parents are just immediately best friends. Obsessed.
I know.
Absolutely obsessed. So I was going to lower it, but you know what? No, I'm sticking. 5 Butterfingers.
That's
no
fine.
Teeth left. 5 Butterfingers.
All gone. All gone.
So there we go. End of August, we'll probably talk about the TV adaptation.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it. I'm definitely going to watch it as soon as it comes out.
I hope that I wonder what they're going to change. I wonder how closely it's going to stay to this crazy story.
And it'll be fun, too, because we just read it, so it's going to be fresh.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to add?
Don't think so.
I think we covered it all. Well, that's all we have for you today. If you like what you heard, please make sure to follow, subscribe, and rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. If you have any book recommendations or questions for us, you can email us at fullybookedcalfpod@gmail.com. Also, be sure to follow us on TikTok and Instagram at fullybookedcalfpod to see our upcoming reads, other book recommendations. We've got a lot of good stuff on there. Thanks for checking us out, and remember,
if you need us, we're fully booked.